For many of you, this may be the most important thing I have to teach you. If you're going out setting top ropes, because you're not doing a lot of lead climbing yet, or because you're the only person with climbing knowledge in your whole group of friends, so it's on you to hang the top ropes, or you got kids, or you're getting into guiding. This is a set of techniques that'll help you set big extended top ropes over an edge safely and get your master point out there over the edge where it's super clean. When I first learned this stuff, I thought, wow, I wish I had known this years ago. So here's the basic idea. You take, I've got 3 cams placed, 3 solid placements, and I use a 50-foot static rope for my primary top rope anchor building tool. I carry it around in a mountaineer's coil, so I do need to take a second and drop the coils so that mountaineer's coil doesn't get all tangled, as they like to do. And I'm going to decide which of my 2 cams I'm going to equalize into the leg of my anchor I'm going to tether off of, and then one is going to be by itself. I'm going to use the 2 on my right for my tether. So this one, this big number 4, is by itself. I'm going to tie the anchor rope to it with just the minimum amount of material I can get away with, so that overhand on a bite is pretty conservative with my material. And so I'm really thinking about having enough material to get over the edge in this scenario. And I'm going to show you this rope actually isn't quite enough to do it here. And then I'm going to show you a couple things you can do to stretch your material a little farther, which will then make this sufficient. Okay, so on the other leg of my anchor, I'm going to tie a big old Super 8, as people call it, or the bunny ears knot. So I take my 8, and instead of passing the end through, I just pass a loop through and take the end around the whole thing. And now I've got these mutually adjustable bunny ears, which allows me to make these 2 cams into one unit. All right, equalize that as best I can in the direction of pull. Looks good. And so now I've got a big V, right, which is going to become my anchor, and then I have this tail. So that's what I really like about this system. You can then put a stopper knot in that tail, slap your gree on it, and go in safety, right, off of 2 good pieces, equalized, over the edge with that stopper knot. It's really important, right? And this is 9mm rope. This is good in your gree. And then I can go back to where I want to be and build that master point right in front of me at eye level. Instead of, I always see people up on top of the crag, hopefully tethered, sometimes not, like building their master point, tying it and trying to estimate the length and then tossing it over the edge. And inevitably it ends up not perfectly equalized. So I like to go over the edge, pull it, load it so I can equalize it perfectly and then make that master point. So as you can see, in this case, I don't quite have enough material to do that, to go over the edge and put it right where I want it. So back to the drawing board, and I'm going to use a cordelette and a sling to just get a little more distance out of this anchor. So let's leave the gree right there. Going to use it. First step, instead of this bunny ears knot, I'll use my cordelette. Take that out. Might as well leave that knot in. And just making a V here. 2-piece anchor. Thinking about that direction of pull and equalizing it with a figure 8 on a bite. This is responsible for connecting 2 of my 3 pieces in the anchor, so I better use a locking carabiner here. And I'll put a clove hitch on that so that I can adjust it if I don't get my distances quite right, which I'll demonstrate in just a second here. So again, just to get a little more distance out of this anchor, I'll just use a shoulder sling. Bring that out. And that doesn't need to be a locker. That's just connecting one piece of a 3-piece anchor. It's not going to be moving or hitting anything. That I want to be a locker. That's my only, personally, my only connection to the anchor when I go over the edge here. All right. So now I'm ready to go over the edge. And let's say, as is in fact the case, I want to adjust the material. Like it looks like here I don't quite have enough for the master point, and I have more than enough on my tether. So that's an easy fix. Pull some of that tether line through. Pull that out. That's getting there. Could even do a little more and take this twist out of the system while I'm at it. Okay, how's that look? Looks good there. And that ought to be just enough. Here we go. Yeah, that'll be great. Find a nice stance. I want to put my master point right here, so I'll take myself all the way down until that's at eye level. And I can set that gree-gree so it's not going to slip. Make sure that my stopper knot is pretty close. If I've got like 10 feet of extra material here, I'll tie another stopper knot, just put a bite knot on the rope right there so that if my gree-gree does decide to slip, which will happen if you unweight and then weight it again, if my gree-gree does decide to slip, I want a stopper knot within a foot or two, just so I don't freak myself out. All right, master point knot that I like to use with an anchor rope is a BHK. The big honking knot. You take a double bite, take a bite there on the doubled strand and just make a bite knot, an overhand or a figure eight. In this case, I'm making it kind of small because I'm trying not to use too much material. Just barely got enough to put the master point right here where I want it. Notice there's a big crack right here that wants to eat my master point and cause all kinds of gnarly rope drag. So I want to think about that, and I think that the way I've got my anchor equalized and set right here on this nice flat edge, it's not going to roll into there. So be aware of possible hazards around there. Remember, the whole goal of this is to get your master point to a spot where, as you belay on this top rope, the rope is not running over anything, ideally, as little abrasion as possible. So when I tie that knot, which I'll demonstrate one more time and make it a little prettier, take your two strands, make a big bite, tie that overhand. You end up with this weird tail. Now that could suck through the knot and cause the knot to start to unravel. This is not safe finished like this. Two ways I can safely finish this style of knot. One, I can just take that extra tail and clip it into the master point. I do that sometimes. Another way is you just pull the whole master point through it. So now it can't pull through the knot because the rope is running through it. Here, if I were guiding, setting a top rope for a group, I would put 3 steel ovals, so I'm getting less aluminum oxide buildup on my rope, but most people aren't going to carry the heavy steel, so you're just probably going to use 2 little lightweight locking beaners. You can use non-lockers if they're opposite and opposed. A couple of non-lockers is fine, but I think most people just feel, why not have the added security, and I'm with you on that. Why not have the added security and use 2 lockers, opposite and opposed? I have my rope backpacked here, and I actually used a double coil, which I don't usually do. I like to coil my rope in a single coil so I can throw it down and lead off of it. But if I know I'm going to hang a bunch of top ropes, and I think of it ahead of time, I will double coil my rope, because check it out. It's in a double coil. It wants to feed out both strands at once. And that's perfect for setting a top rope. I'll just feed out both strands and I will arrive at the middle. If I'm worried about dropping the rope, what could I do here? Easy, right? Just clip one strand through the master point, feed out like that. So much better, right, than sitting back above the edge, trying to guess where your master point's gonna hang, trying to equalize it. I can see that my rope is going all the way to the ground. If I had people down there, I could ask them, you know, is this hanging right where we want it? If they said no, I could adjust it to one side or the other. Okay, that's more or less the middle. Don't forget to lock. If you're using lockers, you might as well lock them. And here, if I'm setting this for a group and now I want to go down and manage this right away, instead of going back up my tether and walking off the back or whatever, I can transition from here directly to the rappel. Right, slap my ATC on there. Third hand back up. Set that. Set my third hand there and just lower myself onto it with the gree-gree. Check that out. That's engaged, backed up. And I can take my gree-gree off the system and go down there and manage my top rope. I want to take the tether and just huck it out of sight, and I'm ready. As I go down, I do want to be mindful of keeping that master point right there where I want it. I don't want it to dive into that crack.